Hello, everybody, and welcome to WCNC Plus on the Pitch, coming to you from our Impact News studio here on WCNC Plus. Every Friday night at 9 o'clock, we are diving in to Charlotte FC as the club continues its fifth campaign in MLS. Special guest this week, we've got Keith Costigan. He does play-by-play for MLS on Apple TV. Charlotte's got a late one this Saturday night, Keith. We're all going to have to pour a pot of coffee here on the East Coast to watch them play LA Galaxy 10:30 kick. So thank you for joining us, Keith. And, what did you notice about Charlotte FC's opening salvo to their fifth season, that draw in St. Louis? Just from a bird's eye view, 1-1 on the road to start the season. Could have been a heck of a lot worse. Would have loved 3, but they come back with 1.
Yeah, I think, first of all, we should mention being on the road for opening weekend is tough because everybody's spirits are high. The fan base is ready to get behind their team. They all believe that their team is going to be number one come end of the season. So I would point to it as being really difficult to go on the road that opening day. You never get every team having that level of confidence on a match day, and that's what we see. So I thought St. Louis played well. I thought you mentioned it could have been worse because St. Louis had some chances in that game. Kalina made a number of saves. But I will say I thought they weathered the storm. They had some chances themselves. Biel obviously gets the goal. Toklamati hit the post as well. So I saw a lot of impressive things about the character of this group to go on the road on opening weekend to get a point in a difficult environment. So if I was Dean Smith, I would look at that and say, look, we expected it to be tough. We expected to have our backs against the wall. We bent a little bit, but we didn't break, and that allows us to move on to week 2.
He mentioned right away on Monday at his availability the style St. Louis plays and kind of what Charlotte was up against with a kind of all man-on-man style and how much different it's going to be Saturday against Galaxy. What's going to be different about this matchup for Charlotte, and does it play better into their hands, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I've done Charlotte games where Charlotte played Inter Miami, and Charlotte enjoy playing against teams that want to have the ball, that are wide open, that leave spaces to counter into. So I think that plays into the coaching style of Dean Smith. I think the Galaxy, by the way, I'm talking about Galaxy of last season, very wide open, very front-footed. I saw a little bit of a more pragmatic approach from the Galaxy in their opening weekend tie against New York City FC. So maybe you'll get a mix of that. But I do think Charlotte are at their best on the road when teams open up and there's space there for them to counter and transition into. So different style, won't be up in your face, up and at them. And I think that will suit Charlotte in terms of having spells, having opportunities to counter attack, and it should be a really good game.
Yeah, tough season last year for Galaxy. What kind of Galaxy squad is Charlotte going to face on Saturday? That may be different.
Yeah, look, last year they waited all year. Ricky Pooch was there, they're messy because he's not good for their team. You wait all year, and then he comes back and he gets injured again. So this is a real body blow. But I will say the Galaxy have done a good job of bringing in additional defensive pieces. That was their biggest cause for concern last year. So Jacob Glesnes, Philly Union, ex-MLS Defender of the Year, Justin Hack, a New York City FC player who can play defense or in midfield. So they brought in players in the right areas. But I don't know if that's taken away a little bit from how good they are going forward. Now, you look at Galaxy season, really, really bad. But I believe after May, their record was a playoff record in terms of, putting themselves into the postseason. It was the start that really killed them. So I thought last year they figured it out a little bit. They brought in Joao Klaus, who gives them a number 9, which they'd lost in Joveljic the year before. So I do think they're a better team, but I would label them in same bracket as Charlotte coming into this year, just underneath the top few teams that you think can win it. So if you're Charlotte and you want to make that statement and say, look, we can go on and win MLS Cup this year, this would be a great place to get that win and showcase it to the rest of Major League Soccer.
Keith, going back to Charlotte's opener at St. Louis, if you had asked me before, give me 2 players that I want to see how they perform in this season opener, it probably would have been Pep coming off the injury and could have been Kalina coming off a bit of a dip since winning Keeper of the Year. Kalina, we'll talk about him first. He had a sensational game. I mean, he was their best player. He earns a match day honor. What do you expect from him this season? I mean, listen, he didn't have a bad year last year by any stretch, but he did not live up to the standard that he set for himself the prior season.
Yeah, I think, look, that's a good thing that you're talking about because I would tell you, every GM in the league that saw Kalina last year, 95% of them would say, we'll take that.
Yeah.
That, because he was so good. So a dip in his form is us being, spoiled by how good of a goalkeeper he really is. So I think in terms of, looking at Charlotte this year, my worries, my concerns, that's not one of them. I think he'll get back to his best. And I don't think he was that far off it last year as well. It's just that he was so good the season before. So I expect leadership, a calming influence, a back four in front of him, which has veteran fullbacks now, veteran centre back in Tim Ream as well in a World Cup year. So I think that area of the field you really focus on. I think that's going to be a strong point. For Pep Biel, you mentioned, I just want to see him on the field. I don't want him to have to go through injury issues. It's when he's on the field, Charlotte are better. You have money tied up in a player, and it's the same in any sport. You have the 2 or 3 players who are the big ones that have to provide the numbers. If they're not there, it's really, really difficult. Now, Charlotte have done a good job in Adjuman before, and in Toklamati now it looks like a real talent and a real find. But Pep Biel is the one that you really look to create and generate and set that tempo in the final third. So if he can stay fit, the sky really is the limit for Charlotte FC. And as a neutral, I want to see him every week on the field. I'm excited to see him this weekend up close and personal, because the last 2 Charlotte games I've done, he's missed out, and I haven't been afforded that opportunity. So hopefully he's ready to go this weekend.
All right, I want to talk some big picture stuff with Charlotte FC in a moment, Keith, but I want to wrap this particular segment by asking you, whenever I go to Charlotte FC's headquarters to talk to Dean Smith, I look forward to it. I know there's going to be some laughs, some quips. What does he like to deal with from your perspective? What do you look forward to about calling a game where Dean Smith is on the sideline?
Well, I'm ginger, so I got to stick up for Dean Smith. I mean, this is like, we're a small community, Alexi Lalas hogs a lot of the limelight for the gingers in the soccer world, so it's good for me to see a ginger coach doing so well. No, it's kind of like what you say. Dean is very much, an honest guy. Coaches sometimes get wrapped up in coaches talk. He's very honest. He's down to earth. He tells it how it is. And you can't help but walk away and be enamored by that and enjoy those conversations. He's a coach that has coached at the very top level. I'll never forget the day when his Aston Villa side beat my Liverpool team 7-2. Maybe I'll never forgive him for that, but I'll definitely never forget that day. So I think to have been at that level and to be so humble and to understand and come to MLS with his arms open, tell me what I need to know. I want to be successful here. And he's really embraced and embodied the spirit of Charlotte FC. So I love talking to him. Great guy. And I get my Zoom call with him tomorrow. So I'll tell him that you guys really enjoy your conversations too.
Yeah. Is that a club? Is that a ginger club thing on the Zoom call, or is that just for the game?
It's a private club. We don't like to mention it too much. I've already probably said too much, so let's leave it there.
All right. A little more with Keith Costigan talking Charlotte FC coming up here on WCNC Plus on the Pitch. Welcome back to WCNC Plus on the Pitch, your weekly conversation surrounding Charlotte FC, the club on the road again this weekend at LA Galaxy. You can hear and watch Keith Costigan call that match for MLS on Apple TV. Keith joining us. Keith, I want to talk a little big picture about Charlotte FC. 5th year in the league. How have they evolved as in terms of how they are viewed around the league, from coming in as an expansion side to couple of playoff years and still needing to make that leap? But what are they viewed as now, do you think?
I think they're viewed as a legitimate contender in terms of making that next step. I agree with you when you say that they have to take that next jump. I thought last year in the playoffs they missed a big opportunity when they had New York City and got knocked out. But I think most people would say if they do make that step, there won't be much surprise around the league. I think early on, some decisions were made in terms of coaches. You moved on quickly. You brought in someone to stabilize the club, made some really, really good signings. So I would look at the top tier in Major League Soccer as your Inter Miamis, your LAFCs, your Cincinnatis. And I would have Charlotte in that tier just underneath that. On any day, I think Charlotte could beat any of those teams, and nobody would say, wow, that's a massive shock. Now, the question is, how do you do that on a more consistent basis? Do you have enough in the squad to do that in a more consistent basis? I would argue maybe 1 or 2 players still short. But I would say overall, in terms of the maturation of this club, the squad, it's moving, it's trending in the right direction. And the next step, is the one you want to make, but the next step is the most difficult one to make, in my opinion. Lots of clubs are trying to make it, but Charlotte have as good an opportunity as any to do that this season.
The club always releases the preseason predictions from kind of the national MLS media, and they want to get a rise, and they do. Yeah. This year, the range in predictions, Keith, was anywhere from 2nd to 9th. Why do you think?
Who put 9th?
I'd have to. I don't want to out anybody here, but it's just such a range, and I'm wondering, why do you think that is? Is that the kind of the lack of consistency last year? Other teams and clubs in the East doing exactly as you're discussing. They're pursuing the same goal. They made big additions. Why do you think there's such a range for Charlotte FC heading into the year?
Yeah, first of all, the day they call for predictions, my phone is off, because you put your name on that number, it's up there. You go on the road, and it's just like people looking at you and shaking their head. So I stay away from it. I think it's fair. I think kind of what I said, it wouldn't be a surprise to see Charlotte take that next step and be a team in the top 2 in the conference. Having said that, you're an injury or 2 away from dipping down and being out of the top 5. And for a long period last year, Charlotte were out of that top 5. It was a run late on that got you into those top positions. So I can see the range. I wouldn't have it down as far as 9th. I think that's bordering on a little bit of lunacy right there. But I would say for me the range is 2 to 5 or 2 to 6. I think that should be the realistic range. Anything less than that, I think Charlotte have to look at themselves and say, wow, did we really have injuries? What was the issue? Because I think that should be the expectation for this club, given what it's done over the last couple of seasons.
Charlotte really seemed to have the approach of let's just build off of the core that we have in the offseason. And they lose Malanda. De La Torre comes in. Schnegg comes in. Do those additions kind of allow Charlotte to just have some continuity in what they were doing already, or does it change the way they need to play at all?
Yeah, I think De La Torre is an interesting one, because I thought at times you could look for something a little bit different in midfield from Charlotte. I thought some games they seemed a little bit stale. Whereas the creativity, I like Luca. I think he's a very good player. He had a really good spell initially at San Diego and kind of fell out of favor towards the end. So I think it does give you a different look in midfield. I think there's so much to say about having continuity. We all love shiny new things, and this every new player. I mentioned match day 1. Everybody's excited because every new player is unbelievable. Yeah. You talk to fans. We signed this striker. Week 4, week 5, they're like, "Hey, that striker, he's not as good as we thought he was." That's at every level. That's in every sport. So continuity is what you build upon, and you try to add a little piece here, a little piece there. I thought the way the club dealt with Adjiman moving on and Toklamati coming in, and that was outstanding. I mean, not many clubs have the ability to do that, so that's testament to the way Charlotte's run. So I think there's a lot to be said about continuity, and then it's, okay, put the little pieces around what we have to make us better. So again, of some of the other clubs in the East, I would be bullish if I was Charlotte in terms of the way you've gone about your business in the off season and putting yourself in position to maybe make a splash in the summer window as well.
You talk about Toklamati, because as much as Big Pat was beloved in Charlotte, this kid comes on in the back half of last season and is a revelation. What can his ceiling be? They just signed him to a new contract. As great as it was to watch Pat move on and how good that was for the club, I mean, this just seems like it could be a different level.
Yeah, you know what's great about Pat too? We watch him at Derby and they love him there too. Yeah. And he's playing well there. So it's such a good, you're invested in it, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I work MLS, you guys, Charlotte, you're going to, hey, Adjiman scored again today. Yeah. I just love that part of the story. I think it's really, really cool. Yeah, Toklamati, I watched him, to be honest, I did not know much about him when I first saw him play. And I walked away saying, wow, they may have, I mean, I don't want to put pressure on anybody, but they may have a better striker here. Now, what I want to see, anytime, we talk about potential, what do we want to see? We want to see the product on the field. So if you scored, 4 goals in the first 10 games, can you make it, 10 goals in the first 20? Can you continue to build upon the success you've had? And by the way, you're now a name. People know who you are. When clubs are doing their scouting reports on Charlotte FC, Toklamati's name is right slap in the middle of it. So now that people know your tendencies, can you still score at that level? I'm confident he will. I'm excited, for Charlotte to have this player in their squad. And my message to everyone that watches Charlotte FC play every week is enjoy this player while we can, because as you say, I think there's going to be opportunities elsewhere for him. But if he gets opportunities elsewhere, it will mean he's done really well at Charlotte. So that's a win-win again moving forward.
All right, we've talked Pep, we've talked Toklamati, we have to talk Zaha. He was the talk of Charlotte FC, much like you were alluding to prior. I mean, the first match last year, nobody took their eyes off of him. And he did happen to score that first goal. Then he went on a bit of a production lull, the entire team did, but I thought he rounded out his season nicely. What do you think of his fit on this club? And there's this lingering loan that expires mid-season, and we've not been through this here before with this level of star, with that situation. How do you think it might play out?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, and I hadn't thought about the loan until you just brought it up. I completely forgot about it, so that tells you about my research sometimes.
It's all we're thinking about.
I'll say this. I think Wilfred had really good moments last season, but I don't know why it's a bad thing to say I want more. That Wilfred at times was a little bit feisty, I would say, with the press. What do you want? What do you expect? Well, we know your level. We expect even more. So I think this is going to be a developing story, like in terms of how he starts the season, whether the club, really anchors in and says, we're going to put a lot of money behind this and make sure Wilfred is here for the long term, or that window is open where, some other players are going to become available as well. I'm not speculating on anything. Yeah. I'm not suggesting Wilfred Zaha is not going to be a Charlotte FC player, but those are the thoughts that have to go in for any manager. I mean, we heard Harvey Elliott in January might have come to Charlotte because of his loan situation at Dean Smith's former club, Aston Villa. So there's going to be a lot of talk over the next couple of months. Wilfred's is one. I think Wilfred getting it done on a weekly basis, scoring goals, assisting, being a leader for that team, makes it a no-brainer for the club to tie him down to a contract. But I want to see it on the field, and places like LA, places like Hollywood, the best place to deliver when you're in a contract situation.
All right, we're going to have much more with Keith Costigan coming up in our final segment here on WCNC Plus On the Pitch. Stick around. Wrapping up our WCNC Plus On the Pitch Friday night show with Keith Costigan. You can hear him, see him, do play-by-play for MLS on Apple TV between Charlotte FC and LA Galaxy this Saturday night. As I mentioned at the top, Keith, it's a late one. A lot of us will be up, but if we're not, why will we wake up to a Charlotte FC win? What is the key to a Charlotte win at LA Saturday night?
Well, first of all, stay up. It's on Apple TV. There's no more other restriction. Everybody should stay up and watch this. Go out early. How about that? Have a nice Saturday afternoon out. Come back in, crack open a few beers, and watch a little bit of Apple TV. There you go. I think for me, it's the styles. I think the fact that LA Galaxy are going to come out and open up and try play. The Galaxy are coming off a game in which they didn't manage to hold on and get a win at home on opening weekend. Their center back got a red card in that game. So I think there's going to be the defensive issues for the Galaxy that Charlotte can exploit. I think Charlotte, again, are at their best when teams want to come out and try dominate the ball, and Charlotte can attack with pace and offer transition moments. So I think you add up all those elements, there's a reason for Charlotte to feel confident about their opportunities of first 2 weeks of the season, both on the road and having 4 points. That would be, a great coup for Dean Smith heading into that 5-game home stretch.
Okay, just a bit around the league, because obviously the big headline was what happened with Inter Miami after their loss to LAFC. And I won't ask you to get into the fallout of that, but frustrating moments for Inter Miami. I mean, is this a sign of something? I mean, it's just one game, as we know, and all eyes are on that game. But what did you make of their start to the season?
I'm sure you guys felt really sorry for them, right? They just
the sympathy cards are being sent directly.
Messi. Oh, I really hope. Yeah, it's funny. We have the villain of the league, right? And I say that in the nicest way, in the way that the Lakers have been the villains of the past in NBA, or the Yankees or whatever. Because you won, you have that target on your back. No, I do think it's a one-off. I think back to last year, and Inter Miami lost them. I remember them going to Minnesota and getting absolutely smacked by Minnesota because everybody is up for the opening game. The Coliseum is just such an iconic venue. I thought LAFC played really, really well. Kind of like what I said about Charlotte. Yeah. LAFC have a really good job of attacking teams that open up, and Denny Bouanga, Son, David Martinez, what a front three that is, by the way. So I would look at the Inter Miami loss and say, look, they shouldn't be losing like that because, they built such a structure and such a squad there, and they have the greatest of all time. But I think it's only going to be a blip. I think they bounce back over the next couple of weeks.
All right, Keith Costigan, play-by-play for MLS on Apple TV. You can watch him. You will watch him all night. Saturday night, Charlotte FC at LA Galaxy. Keith, you're the best. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, good luck with that chat with Dean, too, as well. Looking forward to covering him for the year as well. All right, Keith Costigan, that is WCNC Plus on the Pitch. We'll do it again next Friday night right here at 9 o'clock.